Yeah, hello. Now we are going to look at the use effect hook. Remember how we have to create a component, have to select a file, name it as anything the name you want, but mention caps lock, use effect. So if you have the snippets, ES7 snippets, ES7 React snippets, this thing, we have this, you could directly mention RAFCE, React Arrow functional component. If you do like this, it will generate you arrow function. Remember in ES6 JavaScript ES6 concept, there is arrow function. This is the how you have to write the arrow function, right? Or else if you don't want this, just mention RFCE React functional export component. It will be like this. It will generate you automatically a functional component. So we have to wrap inside the fragment. Why we have to wrap inside the fragment means not to wrap this content with any kind of HTML tag, so that styling won't be affected if you render all the components, individual components inside the root component. So use effect tutorial. So use effect, what is it? What is the syntax of the use effect? So first of all, we have to import the use effect from the React itself. Use effect. So this use effect, the way of writing is directly you could specify over there. You should call over here use effect. While taking, it will take a function. Inside the functions you have to write an arrow function I'm mentioning over, and one dependency array it will take. It will take two arguments. One is function inside the function what you want to write, like what you want to update, what you want to do for every state change. Use effect means for every state change, if you want to do something, use effect is very useful. And so whenever you want to this use effect to run, specifically you could mention those dependencies inside this dependency array. So whenever those variables are changing, only the use effect is going to be run. I will show you. I'm consoling inside use effect, and I'm going to render this inside the this thing use effect. So this is how you have to render this. We will render all the components. We'll separate the code logic in different components, and we'll render all the components inside the root component, which is the app. Use effect I'm rendering here. It is console that it is consoling inside use effect. See, if you want to run it for every state change, suppose I'm taking an input, I'll make it as a center. why don't we keep it styles CSS margins to 0. I'm centering this thing by wrapping it. Okay. Okay. Input styles dot CSS. We have to just import the styles from over there. We have to give the path like this. To give the flex direction to column. Initially it is row. Now so for every state change, if you want to make this happen, and I need a state to update the state. Remember how the state looks like. A state of something. As there is only one field over there, I'm providing e.target.value directly. It is single string, right? It is taking, that's why we don't need to destructure anything. Or and value is state. This thing is, we console this thing. When you are giving the dependency empty array, so whenever the component is rendered, useEffect is going to call for every component render. So we want to make this useEffect run for every input change of this input, right? If you want to make this function to run whenever the input is changing, you would directly mention the state over here, right? So it will render. See now how it will console. input. See, 5 times I mentioned the 5 input 5 times. I 5 times it is rendered over here, like. So whenever it is changing, if you want to do some task over there, use effect is very useful. So whenever this input is changing, this use effect is going to run. This is the beauty of this dependency array. And one more thing is this use effect. It behaves differently for different things. Suppose I'll mention using the PPT one side. This PPT. Strange behavior of use effect. See, use effect hook in React is used to perform side effects in function components. It runs after the render is committed to the screen. After the render is committed to the screen, it is going to run. Can be used to execute when the component mounts, updates, or unmounts. This function is there now. This function is going to be executed for every state change that is provided inside this dependency variable. If you don't provide anything, for every component render it is going to run. And the strange behavior of use effect is in the above for every use effect won't go through though the value is true for every render of component, because return something, console state is changing. Every one function is given new reference to for every state change. If you provide the function inside the I'm creating a function. I'm calling it here. When I'm calling the function as an dependency parameter, so now it will see what will happen. See, whenever it has to run basically whenever the state change is happening. Whenever the state change is happening, the whole component is going to be rendered again. You got it? Whenever the component is change means you are entering something. You are entering something means now the state is what the component is rendered. The whole data inside it is going to be rendered again and again. So when it is happening, use effect is going to call. Why you will be having question? It is not, we are not calling, or we are returning the same thing over here, but why it is calling again and again for every input change? You will be having a question like, because whenever the state change is happening, this whole component is going to be rendered again and again. So when the component is rendered again and again, this function also going to be created new address. Got it? Whenever I'm specifying, whenever I'm pressing something over here, the function is going to be created again. That's why the new reference is going to be passed here. As the reference is going to be changed for this function, it is going to call this use effect, this function over here. This is what you have to, what you should be careful about this thing. Because if I write the same function above the function, above the hook, above the component, it won't happen. See, because whenever the component is rendering, that use effect is going to call, and whenever the state changing is happening, if I call this here, I'm changing, I'll call this inside this input chain. So when it is calling, it should render that. I'm calling this, and the fun also I'm calling here. It's not happening because there is nothing changing over here. That's why it's not happening. See, whenever you're passing this function, you have to provide it inside the use callback. We'll learn about thing. So and one more thing is, if you want to do something, the cleanup function will be there inside the use effect. Let subscribed is equal to true. If subscribed, log off inside use effect. And cleanup function, it is having cleanup function. Cleanup function is to return subscribed is equal to false. Okay, this is the way of doing it, use effect actually, because in order to reduce the memory effects, memory leakages, we have to write the cleanup function like this. We have to take a variable. If it is true, then we have to perform something over there, and inside the React returns, this is the cleanup function. You have to return the cleanup function, where you have to update this variable to false, so that it won't render again and again. This is what about the use effect. Whatever the variable you pass as a dependency array, whenever it is going to change, this whole function is going to be changed for every change inside this variable. It is about use effect. Thank you.